Up until the bomb went off in Mark Hofmann's car, investigators were checking financial problems involving CFS. But now the finding of the so-called McClellan papers in the wreckage of that car has taken lawmen in a different direction.
That made us think that a possibility of either somebody who maybe got burns in the sense of the word and didn't get paid, or that some documents might have vanished or disappeared. We don't really know what might have happened to that.
Also in the car, a cashier's check for $180,000, plus $90,000 in American Express money orders. Money believed involved in the purchase or sale of historic papers by Hofmann. Found at Hofmann's home, a number of documents dating to the 1830s and equipment for possible use in antiquing papers. Because of these findings, Sheriff Hayward says Hofmann is now the prime suspect.
At this particular time, he's our prime suspect, and that was based upon the circumstances of the bombing of Mr. Hofmann and his automobile and some of the items that were found that would connect Mr. Hofmann to the other two bombings.
Hayward says this doesn't mean other suspects are off the hook. Investigation into motives and others possibly involved in the bizarre bombing case is continuing. Richard Bingham, Eyewitness News.
The 28-year-old Salt Lake area native graduated from Cottonwood High School back in 1976. He then served a mission for the LDS Church in Brazil. As a freshman at the University of Utah, Flynn studied chemistry. But over the last year, family and friends say Shannon spent a lot of time with this man, Mark Hofmann, collecting and selling LDS relics and historical documents.
He knows a lot about the LDS Church and that. I mean, in church and everything, he's, writing the discussions and everything else, and he's always reading books constantly.
Even though Flynn worked with Hofmann on a number of projects, about the only thing he personally sold was an 1830s edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, known then as the Book of Commandments. One item Flynn claimed to have in his possession most recently was a 150-year-old seer stone like this one, once owned by David Whitmer, an early Mormon church leader. A former LDS archivist says Flynn told him about the stone, which was reportedly used to translate ancient scriptures. Flynn even talked about selling it, but no one except family and close friends ever saw the stone. LDS church historians say they never bought anything from Shannon Flynn, but they say he was often seen with Hofmann whenever Hofmann had business with church officials. Flynn was living in this holiday apartment complex with his wife and one-month-old daughter when he was arrested. Joel Munson, Eyewitness News.
Shannon Flynn, seen in this yearbook photo, told his lawyer he did not participate in the Salt Lake bombings. James Barber said his client is astounded that he's suspected as an accomplice. Flynn was arrested Saturday after police found automatic weapons and evidence relating to the bombing investigation during a search of his condominium. During a press conference Saturday, Police Chief Bud Willoughby said he hoped a search of Flynn's rented storage garage would reveal the location of where the pipe bombs were made. But the subsequent search turned up no evidence.
There is nothing whatsoever that has been recovered from Mr. Flynn that links him directly to the construction of any explosive devices at all.
Barber confirms police did find a book titled The Anarchist Cookbook, which shows how to make booby-trap bombs. But Flynn's attorney said that evidence is circumstantial and not proof any bombs were made.
He tells me that he has no idea who did it. He's not convinced that Mr. Hofmann did it.
Barber says Flynn was a loose business partner with Mark Hofmann, the man police still say is their prime suspect. When police searched Mark Hofmann's bomb-gutted car, they first thought they had found the mysterious Mormon historical documents known as the McClellan collection. But the mystery continues as officials say they can find no trace of the documents they allege Hofmann and Flynn were apparently trying to sell to potential buyers.
We have not found one single document that can be said is a link to the McClellan papers.
But Barber says his client has seen parts of the McClellan collection.
He believes that Mr. Hofmann did have possession of the McClellan documents. I think the suggestion is that the last time he talked to Hofmann, he didn't have physical possession of them. There's now an investigation to find out where they are, and I expect they're going to turn up fairly promptly.
Barber said police should investigate more and speculate less in order to find who killed two Utahns last week. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News.
speaking somewhat from experience.
Have the police talked too much publicly or privately about their investigation into last week's bombings that killed 2 people and injured a third, now the prime suspect? Has the press exceeded its responsibility to tell the public what's going on?
On all hands, the guidelines have not been conformed with.
The attention that's been focused on this particular case and the manner in which the releases have gone to the media has been unprofessional. That hasn't necessarily been from the county attorney's office. It's been from particularly the spokesperson, apparently, for the investigative agencies, and that's been Bud Willoughby.
He can say anything he wants to about me.
Salt Lake City Police Chief Bud Willoughby doesn't think he said too much, and he's riled by anybody who does.
This was a very traumatic thing for this community. And I say very candidly, the news media helped us a great deal in getting the word out. How else could I get it out?
Yangich says he's videotaping newscasts and clipping newspapers now to prepare a possible case for too much pre-trial publicity. And both Willoughby and Cannon are already living by the new rules. Earlier this week, we reported that murder charges against prime suspect Mark Hofmann could be filed next week. What's the word today?
According to these same guidelines, about all I can say on that is that the investigation continues.
After today, I think the comments concerning the case should come directly from either the screening officer from the county attorney's office or Mr. Cannon, or from the United States District Attorney, or from ATF, not this department.
Dave Thompson, Eyewitness News.
A spokesman says Mark Hofmann will continue recovery at LDS Hospital for at least another 2 weeks. Attorney Brad Rich says Hofmann was apparently sitting next to the bomb, perhaps touching the package with his right hand when it exploded. He said Hoffmann's injuries include the lost tip of his right hand middle finger, burns on his right hand, a cut to the forehead, and a badly damaged right knee.
He lost a substantial portion of his knee, and they've been in the process of rebuilding that.
Rich says doctors are using bone, skin, and muscle grafts along with steel pins in the knee rebuilding process. He says his client has been dealing so far with medical problems, but will now become involved in planning the case.
It's quite clear that Mark really hasn't come to grips with being a potential defendant in a major double homicide. Later today, I'll be taking him up the newspaper clippings for the first time, and we've obtained a new pair of glasses for him, so he'll be able to read about it.
If Hofmann is charged, one defense theory may be that Hofmann was a victim. Rich says facts show he could have been framed rather than have been a bomber.
All of the facts that I know about are certainly consistent with him not being guilty as well, either being set up or being a potential victim.
A frame.
Exactly.
Rich says friends are considering creating a Mark Hofmann defense fund should charges be filed. Meanwhile, People magazine, released today, disclosed that one night a few weeks ago, eventual bombing victim Steve Christensen waited at Hoffmann's home until he showed up, then whisked him off for a late-night get-together with Hugh Pinnock, an LDS General Authority. The meeting apparently involved Hoffmann's failure to repay a loan Pinnock helped set up for the purchase of the yet-missing McClellan collection of historical documents. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News.
Yeah, I can get it.
Police sources indicate the 3 bombs which exploded last month were not identical. Only the first, which killed Stephen Christensen, was reportedly packed with cement nails, making it potentially more lethal. Officials will not comment on lab tests being conducted, but search warrants used yesterday at the homes of Mark Hofmann and Shannon Flynn may outline materials experts found earlier in blast debris. Officers looked for bomb construction material such as galvanized pipe, drilled caps, smokeless powder, model rocket igniters, low-voltage wire, mercury switches, electrical tape, masking tape, solder and flux, and C-sized batteries. The warrant said the material was housed in corrugated cardboard, covered with brown wrapping paper, sealed with unreinforced tape, and marked with black ink. Investigators were also looking for petroleum products such as motor oil. Flynn's attorney theorizes an oil may have been used as an accelerant or merely as a lubricant in drilling holes in a pipe cap.
My own perception is that the case is getting better in the sense that I think that they're going back and doing thorough, plotting, detective, investigative work. And I don't think they're ever going to solve this case to anybody's satisfaction until they do that, so I welcome that.
Jim Barber said investigators found a false mustache at Flynn's house. He said police also asked Flynn and his wife for handwriting samples. He welcomed the search, saying it will merely reinforce the fact his client was not an accomplice to the bombings. Officials had no comment on what they found. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News. Although investigators have not taken Mark Hofmann off their prime suspect list, they are now looking harder at the possibility someone else played an equal or greater role in the bombings that rocked Salt Lake in mid-October. One source told the Deseret News that searches of Hofmann's home revealed no evidence bombs were made there. Other leaks to the media indicate there's no proof it is Hofmann's handwriting on bomb packaging. One investigator said if Hofmann is involved, an associate must have helped or at least had knowledge of the crimes. Hofmann associate Shannon Flynn had been named by police as an accomplice suspect, but then was dropped from the list when searches of his home failed to yield incriminating evidence. Another friend, Brent Metcalf, was suspected but passed a polygraph test. But the man insiders say is Hofmann's closest associate, Lynn Jacobs, has maintained the lowest profile among those friends. It was Jacobs who found the so-called salamander letter. Police say his apartment on the avenues has not been searched, unlike Metcalf's and Flynn's, but they have questioned him as late as Friday. He will not talk to reporters, but he told a friend he perceives police are shifting to an accomplice theory. He said that's evidence they have nothing on Hofmann. Both county and federal prosecutors say the leaks about the accomplice theory are unauthorized. County Attorney Ted Cannon says they worsen the pretrial publicity problem. Prosecutors themselves say charges are weeks away unless there's a major break in the case. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News. Mark Hofmann, according to his attorneys, is now fighting back against police speculation and unfair news reports. The man who police say is their prime suspect, but who has not yet been charged, took a lie detector test last Wednesday. The operator says Hofmann was truthful when he denied knowing a bomb was in his car and denied planning the 2 bombs that exploded October 15th. The test results constitute the first major disclosure by Hofmann's attorneys.
I really see it as an attempt to neutralize some of the harm that's been done. It's important that the police know that Hofmann denies anything to do with these bombings and that objective scientific tests show that he's telling the truth, so that they can go after somebody else, the person who really did perpetrate these crimes.
Rich says Hofmann has no idea who may have committed the murders and apparently attempted another.
I do believe that his feeling is that it has something to do with these church documents.
You know by now that there are documents that he had that have not yet been made public.
I'm not in a position to comment on that.
Documents that were potentially rather explosive.
I'm not in a position to comment on that.
Is that one of the reasons he thinks it's linked to the documents?
It certainly might be.
Rich says he hopes the polygraph results will help create an open mind on the part of the public and help keep police from barking up the wrong tree. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News.
Hofmann's attorneys want the High Court to overturn a ruling by Judge Dean Condor. The 3rd District Court judge ruled that investigators can interview a nurse who overheard a conversation Hofmann had with his attorney. Ron Yangich argued that Hofmann has not been charged with a crime and that under the Mini Grand Jury Act, investigation should remain secret until charges are filed. Prosecutor Jerry D'Elia also argued for secrecy, saying it's still just an investigation. He said one witness has already been interviewed on Channel 5, and that may have weakened the case. KSL's attorney, Randy Dreyer, argued that the media just wants access to a judicial proceeding, not material that's in the investigation.
The press are not attempting to gain access to the secret information that's gained pursuant to the subpoena. We are attempting to gain access to the judicial proceedings that are going to argue the application of a legal principle. In other words, whether or not the attorney-client privilege extends to the nurse that overheard a conversation with Mr. Hofmann's attorney.
The hearing has been moved from Monday to Wednesday. The ruling from the High Court means reporters will be allowed to cover that hearing. This is Jack Ford, Eyewitness News at the Utah Supreme Court.
If they've got their man, they've got their own man. And they should really expand to start looking for the right man.
Bill Hofmann is speaking out against his son's lawyer's advice because he says it's time to set the record straight. And he says police have consistently harassed his son starting the very first day when they wouldn't let family into Mark's hospital room.
At the beginning, they said the doctors wouldn't let us go in. And then the doctor says, well, it's not us, it's the police that's holding us out.
And Hofmann says Mark has an alibi police have known about since day one when they questioned Mark's wife, Dory. She told police that he was at home.
He was downstairs working, as he usually does. I know the beautiful thing of his work is that he can hardly wait from one day to the next to get up and get down and study and do things.
Mark Hofmann spent Thanksgiving with his father and his family. Bill Hofmann says they're thankful mainly that Mark is even alive. But the specter of legal action continues to hang over their heads.
Do you think they will now arrest your son?
I think it may come to the point where they'll have to save face.
Dave Thompson, Eyewitness News.
I hope that they find the right...
Late night, October 17th, just a day after Mark Hofmann was severely wounded in a bombing, is a very important date for both Hofmann and investigators trying to get to the bottom of the case. It was that night that Mark Hofmann asked for a tape recorder to make a statement. The question is, was he trying to confess? In her sworn testimony, Hofmann's nurse, identified only as X, told police that at 8:30 that night she sedated Hofmann with 5 milligrams of morphine. At that time, she assessed his condition as stable. Nothing else happened until about midnight. The nurse left Hofmann's room for 1 or 2 minutes to update his treatment record in the computer. When she left, Hofmann was still sedated. Now, she returned when she was told the monitors on the medical equipment hooked up to the patient were going off, indicating a rise in heart rate and blood pressure. And she saw the now awake Hofmann surrounded by LDS security guards and uniformed Salt Lake City police officers. According to her sworn testimony, she walked up to Hofmann and he asked for a tape recorder. And she responded, "Are you aware you can have your lawyer present?" When questioned by investigators about her legal advice, the nurse says she felt it was part of her duties as a nurse. Police certainly didn't think so. The uniformed police guard asked the nurse what she was trying to do and told her she wasn't a lawyer. And the county attorney's court filing says the nurse cleared everyone from Hofmann's bedside and then, quoting here, apparently performed trivial functions for some time until Hofmann's attorney arrived, end of quote. The nurse says her actions were anything but trivial. She was calming down a sick patient with elevated blood pressure and heart rate. And a judge in the case has found the nurse had only the highest professional and ethical concern for her patient. Did Mark Hofmann ask for a tape recorder to clear his name or to confess? At one point in the police guard's notes of the evening, he writes that one of Hofmann's attorneys called Hofmann's father late that evening and said Hofmann wanted to make a confession. Hofmann's father says he remembers that night differently. Did the attorney who called you use the word confession at any time?
No, certainly not.
Was Mark trying to confess? Separate from what the attorney may have said, was Mark trying to confess that night?
No, Mark had nothing to confess of.
The story of that night in the hospital goes on. We'll have more of it tonight at 10. Dave Thompson, Eyewitness News.
Mark Hofmann's car was parked just north of the Deseret Gym when a bomb destroyed it. Police say Hofmann was in the car and may have been fiddling with something when the explosion occurred. But Hofmann says he had just opened the door when the bomb went off, and he passed a polygraph test in which he denied knowing a bomb was in his car. Hofmann further claims that someone may have been tailing him prior to the bombing. He told his father he noticed a brown American-built pickup following him, noticing it at least 3 times. He said the license number contained a W and a T and perhaps 2 3s. He told his father and a police officer at the hospital that a man was driving the truck. Hofmann reportedly wrote down the complete truck license, leaving it on the dash of his car. Most of the cockpit, though, was destroyed by fire. One federal prosecutor said he had never heard the story about Hofmann being tailed, but a county prosecutor said investigators are aware of the story and are checking it out. The prosecutor said there is a probability, in fact, someone was following Hofmann, but he said it may have not been someone who is threatening his life, but someone who is attempting to collect a bill. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News. After a bomb exploded in the Judge Building October 15th, 2 men, a father and his son, learned the victim was Stephen Christensen. They recalled seeing a man who shared their elevator ride up that day, a man who carried a box with Christensen's name on it. Police put together a composite drawing based on their description. The next day, Channel 5 News showed the father this videotape of Hofmann made in 1980. The witness concluded Hofmann may well have been the man he saw on the elevator.
But it's very, very similar. His nose is identical.
Channel 5, though, is criticized by police for using this method to attempt identification. In 1980, Hofmann had a mustache, as does the composite drawing. But more recently, Hofmann has not worn a mustache. His attorney points out that discrepancy and others. Hofmann parts his hair on the left side, not the right. And his attorney says Hofmann always wears glasses. Brad Rich, though, concedes Hofmann frequently wore a green Letterman's jacket with dark brown sleeves, similar to the one seen by the witnesses.
Why would he go to the trouble to change his identity to look like this person and simultaneously wear a jacket that he's well known for? Doesn't make any sense.
When the one eyewitness first saw the 1980 video of Hofmann, he also noticed the different hair part.
Does that look like the same guy?
Except the hair seemed to be parted on the other side.
That's probably backwards.
This eyewitness told Channel 5 that the writing on the package carried by the suspect was in cursive, like a signature. But police sources say the name fragments they recovered from the bombings were printed, not longhand.
I think the person that was described as the person who placed the bomb is in fact somebody else, not Mark.
Law enforcement sources say the witness identification of Hofmann is at the heart of their case. Hoffman's attorney says he'll eventually show Hofmann was nowhere near the Judge building at the time witnesses supposedly saw him there. Lynn Packer, Eyewitness News.
Mark Hofmann voluntarily surrendered himself early this morning. The 31-year-old documents dealer was in circuit court this afternoon, and Judge Paul Grant allowed one pooled video camera to record the arraignment.
Do you agree with me that we can waive the reading of the information? Yes.
4 separate complaints were filed against Hofmann, and that could result in more than one trial. There are a total of 28 counts, including 2 counts of capital homicide. Hofmann appeared in circuit court on crutches, wearing a jail T-shirt and slacks. Using a firm voice, he waived a reading of the charges. A hearing was scheduled for tomorrow afternoon to consider a motion to reduce bail.
First thing to do is get Mark Hofmann out of jail. Once we've done that, we'll make some decisions from there.
Was this unexpected? Today, I mean, the timing?
They've been promising to do this for months. What can I say?
Defense attorney Ron Yengich says his client expected charges would be filed later in the week. He says Hofmann is not guilty, but he was prepared to go to jail. Yengich says finally the defense has details and specific charges to work with.
Now we again have a framework. This is the first time. So it'll be interesting to see what their theories are and see if they match up with what the facts are. He is not guilty, and we will put on evidence. I can assure you that if we get to that point, evidence will be adduced on Mark's behalf.
Not guilty of murder or not guilty of theft by deception and forgery and fraud?
Not guilty, Jack.
The defense attorney says his client should be released without bail, but he doubts that will happen. He says Hofmann stayed in the area knowing charges were about to be filed, and he voluntarily turned himself into the jail this morning. Prosecutors say they will present evidence at tomorrow's bail hearing that will hopefully convince the judge that Hofmann should remain in jail without bail. This is Jack Ford, Eyewitness News at 5th Circuit Court.